It's a common byproduct of creation. As time goes on and we create in any given field, innovation becomes harder to achieve and further between, each creation feeling more similar to the last with each and every iteration. This couldn't be any more true for the world of video games. Entire genres are born, they grow and prosper, and with enough success, they find themselves put on tour. Year after year, their creativity slowly waning, a lack of time off the road crushing their ability to innovate like they once did. It's a common occurrence in today's gaming landscape, but with even just a little time off, we can see just how much of that creativity can be restored, giving an old idea just enough life to once again feel special, to spark that same feeling in our hearts that its original incarnation once did. For some though, their success has always been modest enough to see them escape this life-to-death tour, and they instead appear every now and then, often after some time spent brainstorming and crafting their next wonderful attempt, looking to alter what they once were, if even just a little, just enough to restore some of those moments of magic. No game in 2017 fit this description better than Arkane Studios' Prey, another entry in what has become known as the immersive sim, a genre that has been kept alive almost entirely by Arkane for now more than a decade. The concept of an immersive sim could in reality be applied to a variety of genres and subgenres. After all, any and every game is made up of and defined by multiple components. These components can often cross over from genre to genre. Dishonored, much like Skyrim, can be played in first person and has a heavily story-driven experience with a deep character progression system. Deus Ex, like Splinter Cell, can be played with stealth or lethal aggression, and both offer the player many tools to walk either path. However, there are also pieces of a game's design that look to further define it as its own individual and unique creation, or as a part of a specific subgenre. The immersive sim is most often tied to games like System Shock, Deus Ex, and Arkane's own Dishonored. Each of these crafted from an interesting blend of first-person shooter and RPG with a hefty dose of fictional realism. In the case of Dishonored and Prey, these defining factors exist in a subtle but deeply influential manner that looks to create a powerful connection between the player and the game world. These are games trying to create more than a scenario or a story, they're looking to build a reality, and in doing so create an experience that allows the player to transport their mindset and perception of what is and isn't possible to that of the characters that exist within that game's world. Arkane has successfully done this with Prey by creating a world that has its own rules, its own set of possibilities and impossibilities. These rules, these cans and can'ts, they remain consistent throughout the experience, and Arkane never breaks the rules of its world without first introducing a realistic means for doing so, such as a new ability, weapon, or tool. Prey's glue gun is a perfect example of this. I know I can use it to build platforms to overcome obstacles like locked doors or even out-of-reach ventilation shafts. The basic rules of the glue gun allow me to fire its adhesive to specific surface types. Those surface types are never altered, and my ability to use the glue gun in this manner is never taken away for the sake of balancing a specific portion of the game. If I can do it in the first hour, then I can do it in the last hour. It's this consistency and commitment to the rules that define Prey's world that allow the player to clearly identify what they can and can't do, making it all that much easier for them to experiment and create unique solutions to future problems based on their prior experiences. This approach continues to go deeper than the player's ability to manipulate the environment. It encompasses the many details that aim to bring the environment itself to life. Talos 1 is filled with physics-based objects that the player is free to interact with. It's a popular tactic used by many games today, sometimes just looking to bring a bit of life to a previously stagnant environment, or to act as an integral part of the player's gameplay loop. Either way, it ensures the player doesn't just move through the game world, but rather they exist within it, much like we exist within our own world. In the case of Prey, the player is then given good reason to be interested in these objects. It's all part of a concept I like to refer to as looting the world. This includes reading notes, digging through the trash, searching for ammo, and generally recognizing the bits and pieces of the environment as potentially valuable resources. Not only does this provide the player with said resources such as passcodes or crafting materials, it looks to further strengthen that bond to the game world. There really is just something inherently immersive about an experience where we can interact with many of the same objects we might interact with in the real world. Now, this is for the most part a design direction that Arkane has made integral to their take on the immersive sim with Dishonored and now Prey, but it's when we look at the mimics, perhaps Talos One's most devious visitor, that we see how Arcane grew some innovation from the garden of its beloved genre.
Now it's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat.
How about a cup of coffee? I could go for a nice cup right now, a nice, fresh cup of the finest beans the future can offer. You see, the once living inhabitants of Talos One loved their coffee, and the station is littered with ceramic caffeine delivery devices better known as coffee cups. As a player, you can pick up each and every one. Imagine it filled with piping hot brew, or just smash it against the wall. Maybe even use it to distract an enemy. Unfortunately, you're not alone in this search for a fresh cup of joe. The Mimics want some too. Disturbing and perceptive, they are far more than just another enemy, a scripted scare or random encounter. They function on their own AI, an AI that recognizes all of the same objects in the world as the player, and then uses that knowledge to best find the object they want to mimic, allowing them to set up ambushes or even hide from a pursuing player. In a game where interacting with the objects in the environment is so integrated into the player experience, so integral to how the player connects with the game world, you can easily see just how much of an impact this has on the player's otherwise mundane task of looting the world. The Mimics and the player here are utilizing the same set of resources to achieve their goals. They are just as interested in using that coffee cup to ambush you as you are in using it to distract your next enemy. And it's this crossover of knowledge that creates a level of tension and unpredictability in an area of game design that few others ever have. Arcane took its blueprint for its immersive sim garden and its knowledge of how it connects the player to its world, and then planted a seed in that garden to genuinely twist and alter our perspective of Prey's environment. That seed was far more than just an untraditional enemy type. It's an incredibly intelligent solution to the monster closets traditionally found in games. You don't walk into a room expecting a mimic to crawl out from under a desk or leap from an air duct. You instead look to the clipboard, the coffee cup, the science lab filled with beakers and microscopes, and you wonder which one, if any, might be a mimic lying in wait. You start to pay closer attention to the most common of details, asking yourself if it's logical for that desk to have 2 clipboards or that dead body lying before you to have dropped 2 handguns. Every room and every corridor is now filled with dozens of opportunities for an enemy engagement rather than just a handful. Even as you, the player, begin to encounter larger, more deadly threats, the Mimics continue to lie in wait, ensuring that there are very few places on Talos One where one can genuinely feel safe. In this instance, a wonderful and terrifying idea evolved not just the gameplay, but the sandbox in which that gameplay takes place. All too often we look for leaps and bounds when it comes to innovation. We want giant steps forward in progress. But the Mimics of Prey and their profound effect on one of the most simple yet prevalent aspects of the immersive sim are an outstanding demonstration of how there is always room for innovation and growth, and how it can carry just as much value, even if it's delivered in a dose no larger than a cup of coffee.